live. We
Are
are
we
live.
live? Are we live? Are we here? Yes, we're here. I see boom, 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 boom. I'm here with co-host Vero Sokolov, also known as, soon to be better known as DJ Boom Boom. This is the EduVerse Festival. We are gathering together the coolest, most passionate, innovative teachers from around the globe. We have with us right now in this third episode, Raquel Ribeiro. I learned a long time ago from
Hey
my Brazilian
guys.
students not to pronounce the R's at the beginnings of the names.
Yeah, way to go.
So that goes back to my days in New York City teaching groups from Brazil. That's another story I'll tell you about one day, Raquel. But welcome. Thank you so much for being with us. How you doing? How are you feeling?
Great, thank you. I'm great. I'm super excited to be here talking to you. We are very far away in terms of the countries we are based right now. So it's US and France, and me, I'm here in São Paulo, Brazil.
Yeah, that's
and I
nice.
think
That's
it's so amazing.
Yeah, we got a little going there.
And all the time zone.
Good.
It's
Boom.
amazing.
How are you doing? How are you feeling, Boom?
I'm having the time of my life. Dreams coming true. Like I always dreamed of ELK becoming this, hub for innovative, inspiring teachers, being a place where we can come together, collaborate, build things together, dream together, and then see these dreams come true. This is the first one. Us just being here today was just really like one of the best days.
That's what's up. That's what's up. For me, it's similar, but it's, as we've been talking about today, it's kind of like I haven't felt this. I felt this way before, with surrounded by teachers like this, but it's been a while. Like the moment is we've circled back or something, and I do believe very strongly. The more I listen to people today, the more I read about stuff that they're writing and other people are writing and presenting about, that we are, on the cusp of, the reason I felt it when MOOC started coming out, the Web 2.0, is because there was a reason, right? That was a shift. There was a movement, and since then it's just been kind of, discouraging stuff going on. And now all of a sudden I feel like, wow, so excited again, and the timing is just spot on, and wow, it's really great, really great.
Awesome. So let's
for our first guest. Can you hit her with the question? Boom, boom.
Yeah, I mean, our first question, now that we are getting to know each other, and this will go into a podcast, into articles, summaries. We'll share it and we'll process it, and we'll circle back to get all the links. And we'll be sharing it in the community. So we'll do thorough job, good job working and making sure everyone can make the best out of what's happening. Our first question is, tell us a little bit about your background and what are the most exciting things that you are working on right now.
Very well. I'm so glad to be here. So I'm Raquel Ribeiro. Jason pronounced my name right. Point for you. I'm based here in São Paulo, Brazil, and I've been an English teacher for a very long time. And then since 2012, I decided to share my practice using technology. So going back many years ago, and we were getting used to the concept of apps to teach and the possibilities, and very, very faulty internet connections. But I decided to blog, and I created a blog, and I started sharing and writing and registering my experience and connecting with all the teachers all over the world, and this has been amazing. And then through blogging, I started taking part in conferences and presenting and giving training courses. So I keep up teaching, most recently remote teaching due to the pandemic, and also registering every step along the way in terms of all the adjustment and difficulties related to teaching remotely, from emergency remote teaching to the evolution up to the current attempts. So I write, I'm a columnist at the World of Better Learning. I have collaborated with a material, I give classes, and I love interacting with teacher colleagues from all over the world. So this would be in a nutshell. Thank you.
I can attest to the last thing you said, because I've seen you all over the place working with teachers, even though we haven't spoken face to face as we're doing now. Definitely seen you all over the place for a long time, inspiring teachers and helping them with digital literacy issues. So that's great. What are you working on right now, Haka, that you feel is the most interesting or most inspiring?
Thank you for this question. And my current work right now involves researching the possibilities of the metaverse in education, because this has been around, let's say, for a few days most intensely. And everything, if you think about technology, things come last to educational purposes and scenarios. So I'm considering the possibilities and also how to use the possibilities, which are still evolving, in contexts that are more challenging in terms of available devices for the teachers and the students, the community of students, unstable and faulty internet connections, because I think we need to find a way around. And even if we get started and it's far from the goal, or far from what is really the top-notch and most current practice, we are moving towards a direction. And this direction help our students to develop, not only focusing here in English language learning in this process, but also evolving in terms of their life skills, what's going to be demanded from them in the job market, in the challenges we are currently facing the world. So I'm focusing on this use of technology that enhances the experience of learning, because of course it's the 21st century. We've been through a lot, but we've got more tools and resources than a decade ago. And why not make the best use possible out of that? And considering all the economical scenario and the difficulties, and focusing in this very moment in the adult learners. So why not use something that enhances the learning experience and also enables them to be more prepared to deal with the demands of the world?
Absolutely. And the thing is, when we talk about access to, tech tools, the internet, people who don't have as much money, the geography is, against them, or both, or, it's interesting because you can on one hand think, okay, well, this doesn't make sense for these people because they don't have the advantages other people have to use this technology. But the way I've always seen it is the opposite, which is if you don't have access to the best physical classrooms, you don't have the best access to you can't just go take CELTA because you don't have the money, or you to become a it was always to me like, wait, technology, even though it seems like it's for the privileged or the few, it's got to be explored as much as possible. Like you're saying, like, okay, what are these people's connection issues? What are these? Let's do whatever workarounds we need to do, because the connections are what they need and what they don't have.
Exactly.
Right? I think
and the creativity is going to somehow, the collaboration and creativity, thinking of students and teachers in this co-creation, sharing problems and expertise to overcome the barriers and to use what is already available. Because, it's possible to be in a place where you say, okay, I wish I had, or well, the ideal conditions would be, but instead, there are all the free and available resources. So for instance, talking about the metaverse and this possibility, and if you go and watch the videos, I shared an article online. I don't know if
it's a great article.
Shared.
No. If you have it,
in the comments for YouTube.
Put it in right now. But that was what, when I was talking to Shelley and we were thinking about who to bring, was like, you've done all this great work, but you're also now, like you said, interested in the metaverse. I have some questions for you about that after you finish what your thoughts here. But yeah, please post that. That would be great.
Okay, so I'll post it here, and if you can share the link in the streaming and the social medias, because I'm not sure that here this is a way of following. And there is this kind of continuation in the process of immersive learning, virtual reality, and the things that we have learned through the process of being away. Hey. And this process of being away from the students, and this desperation at first, because it was really complicated, the very beginning of emergence, remote teaching, and then everybody got so overwhelmed, regardless of your level of, tech savviness or not. But we found ways around it. And that's important to consider this. And that's why exchanging ideas with other fellow colleagues who go through the challenges is really important, because then we can help each other through these gaps, through these challenges.
Sure, and I think you know, if you've been following what's going on today, that the main reason we're here and why we're doing this today, it's this introduction to get us connected so that we can support one another much better than we have before, especially going into now moving from Web 2 to Web 3. I mean, Web 2 started out as this great opportunity for us to be in Facebook groups together or in Twitter hashtag things together. But, you know, things have changed. People are rightly more cynical of these companies, and, you know, it doesn't have the same vibe anymore. The upside of that, right, is that, you know, now going forward, we can say, okay, we can have our own space, but we just need to get back together. That's why it's like, okay, these are, you know, people like you, people like, you know, Vance Stevens was here earlier from the Webheads. Like, you know, we're all still out there, but we don't have the kind of places we've met, like in MOOCs in the past or Facebook groups. It's just not happening the same way as it was. So, you know, now we can do it even better now that we have the experience of being on, you know, in Zuck's 2.0, and now Zuck wants to take us to the Zuckerverse or whatever he calls it. I forget what he calls it, but yeah, we're calling it the EduVerse. That's going to be our place, our space. You know, we might be sharing. We might be just like we're all in the universe together. We can all be in the metaverse together, but we're going to have our corner. And we know it's not as simple as, you know, oh, we'll just, you know, buy into what this company's saying, and we're going to hang out on their space. Like that, those days are over. We're going to, you know, have our own space, whether it's going to start on Discord, and then, you know, who knows where we'll go, but we're going to be somewhere where we have more control over what we're doing. And Stacy Roshan is in the house.
Hi, Stacy.
Hi.
Hey, Stacy, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very well. So happy to have you here. DJ Boom Boom is still in the room, but he had to duck out visually for a moment, but he's going to come back in and join us. So happy to have you here. Raquel and I were just talking about something. Well, we were talking about a few things, and I had some questions to ask her, but she introduced herself and told us a bit about what she's excited on working on these days. So let's move that over to you, Stacy. Welcome. Tell us, what are you up to? You know, who are you for those who don't know you, and what are you doing right now that you find really exciting? You know, that you're working on.
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having this conversation, inviting me on. I'm really excited about it. I was able to tune in to some of the conversations earlier. So what am I up to? I work at a K-12 school. I work mainly with teachers right now, tech integration. Really, one of my biggest goals is thoughtfully, you know, integrating the tools and selecting tools that are going to work for us as a school. And so I really do value that. A lot of my role is that chance to like look at our school goals and then to pick the tools that are going to work well for us. And then we're able to purchase site-wide licenses for our teachers. And then of course I help do the training. I think that the biggest thing comes in when we really talk about the lesson design and step back from just the tool. And so I'm lucky to be able to do a lot of that work. And then, to the wonderful world of Twitter and beyond, like we're here together, being able to connect with so many people. And so I've been able to see that work that I started at school kind of go to the next level and reach more educators, more schools. And through that, I've been able to learn more myself. You're at a single school, you kind of get stuck in a certain lens, which is great to know your school and to know what they need, but it's also really valuable to have experiences of others. So I think that's something that's really beautiful about kind of this conversation that we're having and just the connected world that we're in, to be able to learn and share from one another. And then the last thing I'll say, because this is a long introduction, is
no, it's great. Don't stop.
Yeah.
I think what I'm most passionate about right now when you ask that is just how we can leverage tech tools to really give every student in the room a way to express their voice, their understandings, whether that is a verbal contribution or through a chat channel or some other way of sharing what they're thinking.
Wow. I have a few things to say. One is that we've had some really serendipitous pairings and groupings today. We did not make any attempt to, put people together considering, who they are, or where they live, or what they're working on. It was all about, what's good for your schedule, because we're all so busy. But Raquel, listening to Stacy, I mean, you guys really have overlapped in some really interesting ways that, the conversation we're going to have will be really great for people watching, because I think you have a lot to say about tech tools for, so that every student, every teacher adapting, trying to get them trained up, using them so that they're really benefiting from them. The other thing is that the next question I have, which I'll just throw out there right now, because you can segue right into it, both of you, it works really well, is what tech tools for education are out there, or is there one in particular that you feel like people should really know about, like your average teacher who's, following ways in tech that could help their student, like, that you want to train up a school on? There's so much out there. Is there anything in particular that you think is exciting and people should know about? Raquel, how about you?
Okay, I could get started. Just before I go there, I'd like just to reinforce something Stacy mentioned about students having a voice, be that through speaking or through typing, because there are different languages, styles, and different moments in their lives. And it's important to cater for that. And technology enables us. And this is a way of including and giving everybody a voice, a way to express themselves. So I see eye to eye with you too, Stacy, on that. I believe that there are many tools, but the expertise, it's best to use less. Less is more. It's fashionable for teaching with technology too. So I'd like to highlight two things that I believe they are very effective, practical, and free and easy to access, considering the context of learning English as a foreign language in my case. The first one is using the Google Assistant, this artificial intelligence possibility, machine learning, so that the student can interact with the machine and see the intelligibility of the speech, the discourse, and get to understand. And maybe, okay, it was not intelligible, so let's try again, because that's what happens in communication. And it goes beyond just repetition, and you can learn facts about the world, and at the same time can be used with very, very elementary learners with, for instance, numbers and the time, or going even deeper with websites and politics. So this would be number one. There's a lot of potential. And the other thing I think it's important, and it's not an app per se, but it's something that you can go and search a number of possibilities, It's a digital dictionary, an online dictionary to double check the pronunciation of the words, the meanings, and the contexts. So this is really easy to access, even when teaching adults who are over 50, 60. It's easy, they can use that too. And students like this possibility of, okay, I can use that to study. And I think this is our role as a teacher. So I would highlight those two at first.
Great. And Raquel, before you answer, I want to respond to what Raquel said in response to what you said, which is about students finding their voice with technology. You know, there's such a reflex, and this is down to us as trainers, you know, I think more than anything else, and bloggers, but you know, a reflex people have to think that, like, you know, technology alienates students, you know, and it makes it harder for them to find their voice, you know. And I think a lot of that has to do with just thinking like it's so hard to understand how to use it, and you know, this student has a hard time already, you know, I can't figure out how to use this technology, you know, but you know, to really change that way of thinking. And I think the pandemic and people getting online, it's helped a little bit. I mean, I've seen teachers who in the past were, you know, had that reflex and now are like, wait, wow, I had a student who was never contributing, but when, you know, she could be this avatar or when she could, you know, have this different kind of role, she was more comfortable, she participated, she responded. So I think that that's changing, I hope. And I think that I'm excited about virtual spaces in that way. Because I feel like there's more chance, we were talking about this earlier with Shelley, but just more chance for people to find their voice and participate more and learn more as a result of technology. So yeah. So Stacey, how about you?
I mean, y'all are speaking my language here. You know, if anybody's tuning in and, you know, hasn't seen, I wrote a book that's called Tech with Heart, leveraging technology to empower. Leveraging technology to empower student voice, ease anxiety, and create compassionate classrooms. And I truly believe that technology integration, I know for me, has been a game changer in the relationships I've been able to build with students, how I've been able to hear from them, listen to them, and see them come alive and build new levels of confidence. So I truly believe in that. And I really do want to emphasize too, Raquel, you said very nicely, like, you know, limit the tools. And I am like a tool. Yeah, I'm a tool geek. I love like exploring them all. And I do that a lot, but I then try and vet them and you know, bring down a smaller suite of them to introduce to the teachers that I work with. And, you know, our teachers, they'll use other tools than the ones that we introduce school-wide. And that's great. Kids need some variety, but also there is such a thing as too much. So to your question of like my favorites, I'm going to start with Flipgrid. Simple, free, for everybody. I mean, we use it K-12 all the time. Kids come alive on that thing. I think it's really interesting too, that sometimes you think that you have a quieter student in class, but then you put video capability in their hands and all of a sudden you're like, see a new level of creativity. Maybe it's like they needed to script it. Maybe they just needed to record, be able to delete, re-record, whatever it may be, or just recording in the comfort of their home might feel different than speaking up in class. And so I love that tool. And you can connect with a global audience because it's like asynchronous video, right? Another favorite of mine is Pear Deck. I talk about Pear Deck a lot because it is a presentation tool that, again, I can ask a question and give everybody the space to formulate a response, to write something in the Pear Deck. And then we can bring the conversation, I call it, to the board, where like we have the verbal conversation. So the kids who were the hand raisers, whose voice is going to shine in that format, all right, I'm still hearing from them. But what about all the kids who didn't have a chance to share their ideas or needed some moment of pause before they were ready to chime in? And then I'm going to mention a third, which is, I think I'm going to go with Cami for this one. And Cami is like you can think of it as like a PDF. You can edit on any PDF, and it works very much like a Google Doc in terms of it's collaborative in real time, and it integrates with your Google Suite, or if you're using if you're a Microsoft School, it integrates there too. But what I love about it is that it can really provide rich feedback too for students. And that includes video, that includes audio. A lot of times we're missing tone when
audio
we're just,
is great.
Yeah. So it's so simple. And, going back to accessibility, it has a read aloud tool built in there, even reads aloud in different languages. You can adjust the playback speed of the read aloud to customize for the student. So I just think there's a lot in that tool.
Cami, yeah, great. 3 great ideas. Yeah. Wow. And the other thing that I thought about when you're talking about, especially the students who, whatever it is, and it's not always obvious, but just whether it's they're at home, whether it's they can try again with a video, whether it's they're just not in front of everybody on the spot, right? Like it's asynchronous, but it's also like when you say like they're on the world stage, it's also that feedback. It's also like, you're getting compliments or oh, that was great. That's a great video. You did this great job where, the pressures and the weirdness of like physical classrooms and cliques and it's just a mess. It's a mess. And it's hard when you start talking about something like I'm doing now, people be like, like I'm somehow against the real world. It's never about that. It's about just the real world. Well, the real world in terms of education and classrooms is pretty messed up, like sitting in one room together at desks, like it's already not, so real. I think so. Education, when you bring in like the things we're talking about, paradoxically, I think can make it more real and have more feeling, especially for kids who are not about to just fall in lockstep with how things are supposed to be, standard education. This is what we do.
Because this is the evolution. Yeah. Sorry, Jason, but that's the next evolution. We co-create content. We see teachers also, we have shifted over the past decades from just reading and looking at books to actually sharing what we do, exchanging ideas and being a lot more active if we go on social media. And then I'd like to add social media, especially Instagram stories as a tool. Because, you can hashtag something and just release it and they can share and add it up and there are quizzes. And it's a very interesting way of using the social network and students get to understand it very easily because basically everybody's there. And if they're not, they can work collaboratively. And Stacy mentioned something really important too, because they need to present to the world. And I was thinking a very simple tool like Google Slides, for instance, or the Google Docs. And then they have this possibility to come up with something and present and speak and go and feel ready and have this timing to get ready and present to the others. And this is an important ability they are going to be required to later on. Maybe in case of adults have already been demanded to speak in public, for instance, in a work context.
For sure. Great. Well, if you guys don't mind, I have another question, one that's really important to Boom and myself. So that is because we're here to hear each other's ideas, and it's great. But we kind of already knew you guys had these great ideas, so it's nice that we can put you together if people are watching. But we didn't really put a lot of pressure on like how many people can we get our audience and et cetera, et cetera. And the main reason for that is that as I keep saying all day, really sense a shift happening, and I feel like we need to be ready for that shift in the sense of like having a real big community of innovative teachers to help one another to really be this solid group. So whether it's a DAO, like a decentralized autonomous organization, like that's exciting to think about what's happening with things like that. It's just this is a moment again. We had Vance Stevens, who represents the web heads back in the day, like the earliest. He and Stephen Downs, and a few others doing the first MOOCs. So listening to him talk about Web 0.1 2, now 3. It's like he agrees. It's like there's something coming. And since you know, a Facebook group is not the way it's going to happen this time around, you know, let's make our own group and let's go forward with it. So the question I have for you two is, what educators do you admire the most now, and especially who do you feel we should bring into this community? So obviously the people we've seen today, we have Boom and me, we have a podcast. Our first guest is, of course, SST Shelly Sanchez. I know it's Terrell, but I say Terrell, Terrell. She's our first guest. We did a really great show with her. We're going to put it out, and then we're going to invite each of you to be on the podcast so we can dig more deeply into the things we're talking about today with you individually. But who have we maybe not thought of? Who have we not contacted? We're really trying to figure out, you know, who are the best educators out there that would, you know, feel like, yeah, we've got to, you know, have each other's backs in this new world, in the metaverse, or the EduVerse, as we prefer to call it. So, Stacey, what do you think? Who should we put on the list? And yes, I am taking notes.
Oh my gosh, I have way too many to name, and I'm
name a couple, and then we message later about it too. Who stands out? Like, who do you really admire? This is also a way to talk about what you're doing and what you're involved in too. It's not just name dropping, right? Or making this list. Like, who are the 1 or 2 people? Maybe there are more. We can talk later about the community we're building. But who right now is really exciting to you and that you think you'd want to mention?
I'm going to start with Lainey Rowell, and that's her Twitter handle too. And she's written a book, Evolving Learner. She's coming out with a new book called Evolving Gratitude, and she is a master connector. And so that is why I mention her first. I think she's always uplifting others, connecting people in awesome ways. Sean Gaylord, SM Gaylord on Twitter. Also does a great job with connecting, really uplifting. He's a principal. Another person is Juritza. She's Inc. _YV on Twitter. She is just really, I think she's just crushing it. And she does a lot of work to uplift a community, maybe an underserved community, raising money. She's doing awesome work. So I think I'll go with 3. Let Raquel jump in.
Yeah. I'm gonna get back in touch with you about other people. But yeah, that's really cool. Very cool. Nice.
Right. I think there's a huge number of amazing teachers and educators all over the world. I'm going to mention some I have worked closely with. So I'm going to mention from Argentina. There is Vicky Schaumel.
Shout out to Vicky Schaumel. I know Vicky.
Yeah, there's Sophia Mavridi. There is an American called Monica. I'm trying to recall her last name here. Okay. And see, and who else am I gonna say? There is teacher Karin. She's like focusing more on business English. And I'm trying to be fair here, and apologies because it's
It's like the Oscars. You have to thank everybody that
I found her. Yeah, there's Monica Martinez. She's American. She's also very involved in a lot of sharing and communities. There's another one I'm trying to recall here. I think it's so important that we support each other, and I wish I had a better memory because it's a huge list of amazing people. And it's so important because when you like or share, somehow it reaches a larger audience. And I think this is super important.
It is super important, but to me, what's even better is not thinking about like that chance of it sharing or reaching, but what if we were all this one community? Not that we didn't use Twitter or didn't use Facebook, right? But had a place where, you know, we could always find, and Discord is a pretty cool place to do this, and that's why we're leaning towards that, right? To be able to put materials, have different threads, have different places for people. Not as a way to like supplant like whatever else you're doing and wherever else you are, but like a place where just all of us are there. So that's what we're really thinking about, and why we wanted to bring you guys here. But yeah, we'll definitely be in touch about other suggestions you have for people that we should reach out to. I want to ask you both something, because I think you'd be great to talk to about this. And Raquel, when you started talking with us earlier, you first mentioned that, the problems that certain people having access to the internet or certain tools, and how that can be difficult. And then I said, well, but what's always been important, right, is that technology can also be more of an equalizer, giving opportunities to people that, otherwise wouldn't have access to those teachers or those materials, right? And technology can make it happen. When I think about VR and the metaverse, because Hakel, you wrote this article recently, and I want to talk about the metaverse a bit, or the EduVerse, or whatever you want to call it. But when an example has been given a lot, and you can already do it, right, in VR, is a visit to a museum, right? Or moving us forward a little bit, like a class having a real virtual field trip, like where they really go and see and experience. When I think about stuff like that, it reminds me of why I first got into social media, right? It was that the kids who have money and have access to real museums, like, they don't need that the same way. Like, that stuff should not that they can't have it, but come on, like, that's going to be, let's get the free online classes back in the day, right? Or the MOOCs, like what I got so excited. Let's get those to the people that can't go to the physical classroom, right? Not that, and I feel this is going to happen again. We're going to, you see Mark Zuckerberg talking, you don't really feel like, I didn't at least, like this was, about access for people that don't have things. It was more like all of us who already have like personal trainers. Yeah. Here's this virtual world to make it even easier and more fun for us. That was the message I got. So I feel like, okay, what the EduVerse, like if we can use virtual spaces, like, God, we got to push that for people who can't have those same physical experiences. What do you think about that, the two of you?
Yeah. When I first watched the presentation, the concept, I had the same feeling, Jason, Stacy. Oh, okay, if you just look at it for people who are able to afford the Oculus days and the glasses, but it's important to look at all the things that come along with the concept, like the misconcepts too. For instance, this idea that you're going to be immersed in the metaverse like for many hours a day. Look, maybe people want to sell it like that at first, but there are other things, for instance, that are health concerns. We as teachers, we know that if you use technology and innovative, immersive technology, this is certainly a concern. It's not like the student's going to be forever using the virtual glasses and like here, the cardboard boxes. And also because of the pandemic, there are other concerns. People cannot share things as we used to in the past. So this idea you mentioned, visiting a museum and across the world in another country, and the possibility to use the virtual reality even though you don't have the glasses. And that's something I use with my students during the remote classes, and it's important to include them in the process, in the idea. So why are you going to visit a virtual museum, or why are you going to drop by Berlin or London for a while? If you're teaching geography or history, there's a purpose. If you teach English, like it's my case, it's a communicative purpose because the students are learning the language, the structure, the words, and it's much better than just opening the page to a book and looking at the photo. We can do more than that. And of course, using a training and a good sense, because the immersive experience during classes in terms of the experience in itself is like tops 2 minutes, 3 minutes, no more than that. And it's the impact of this experience. Whoa, I went there, I saw this, or maybe I haven't seen that. And also it kind of wakes up the element of dreaming in our learners. Because I live very far away. So the first time I was able to travel virtually to Egypt to take my students to see the pyramids, it's like, whoa, it's like I'm there. It lasted for 2 minutes. And there were lots of exchanges in terms of information. So in a nutshell, I would say it's important to understand we cannot go overboard. And I don't think this should really be a concern. But what is available can we use and insert, and it's not going to be in everyday classes. You're going to choose very wisely the theme and the topic to make use of that.
Great. Over to you, Stacy. Before we go over to you, welcome back, Boom Boom.
Thank you, guys. We were earlier today, we were speaking about how important it is for educators to be in students and learners' shoes, and like learn things. And we were talking about martial arts or like something completely where we feel that we are like total, amateurs, and then be in this. So I got to experience our conversation from the listeners' perspective. That was really cool because I needed to go and get my daughter from school all of a sudden. So this is also kind of, I think, a good example of we can be doing these things while also being parents, and we should be, and that's the only way. So we are here live, streaming, broadcasting at the same time, getting our daughters from school.
I'm sorry you don't have a humanoid robot to take care of that for you, man.
That's great. So it's been like listening to you guys. I just had the smile on my face the whole way back and forth, and it's been such a joy and pleasure. So yay!
Oh, good! Yay! So Stacy, please weigh in.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go in two directions. I'm gonna go from the teacher, learner, and also from the student end. So starting with the teacher, I think in terms of like access to conferences and conversations, I mean, since the pandemic, it's different in person. You get to connect with people in different ways. In person's very valuable and a next level experience. And I don't think that the virtual can replicate that in terms of just like those passing by, meeting people and having those conversations that just happen. And we know when we go to conferences, half of the experience is the conversation and the other half is attending sessions. But in terms of price point, that it's been able to be lowered for the virtual component. So like you can register for the conference virtually or in person. Virtually can be so much cheaper. You don't have to travel. Teachers that were not able to go to conferences before are now able to tune in. There's so much free stuff that's out there. Some of it's just being recorded so people can do it at a time and a space that works for them. So like we're talking live now. Some people are joining us, but many more will be able to watch on YouTube later, wherever it will live, and be able to consume it when they need to. And so I think that is really beautiful in terms of like getting more professional development out to teachers that might not have a school that can pay a lot of money to send them to different places. And we can also really get an international audience, right? So been at some of these virtual conferences that last like all day. I mean, we're talking right now, right? Like people are joining in late at night, early in the morning, and that can only happen because it's virtual. And then the other thing, when we're talking about, you mentioned that for students, the students who didn't have access before, and I'm just was thinking as you were talking, like I'm coming from a different space. I teach in an independent school in a very privileged community. And some of the experiences that, I see that we are really prioritizing for our students are so that they can learn more about the world. They can learn more about underserved communities. They can get a lens of empathy, understanding, awareness. They can start giving back in ways because they have that privilege that is such an important piece of what we do for them to do service work. And that doesn't just have to be like going to a place. There's so much that they can do. They can fundraise, they can help out, they can share their perspective and their ideas and learn from the perspective of other people. We've done virtual field trips, even beyond this year, but definitely more virtual field trips this year. Sometimes our students are able to still travel out and visit other places. And it's really important, I think, that all of us learn more about everybody else. Like, especially in this time, like we have seen that we just need more like love and support and understanding of all people. And I hope that we can do way more of that through opening up virtual spaces.
I'm really glad you said that because I definitely missed that piece. It's something I wasn't thinking about today, but it is something I thought about before. And when I teach, when I'm with groups that have more privileged in terms of resources and access to things, so you're absolutely right. It's like, okay, yes, on one hand, people who don't have access, can they have a virtual field trip? But people that have, more privileges, like what are we doing with them to open their minds up to those other people, to, as you're saying, how can we use the technology to expand their horizons, to consider people that are different from them, to make their world more diverse so they can have more empathy about other types of people, cultures. Like that's a major thing when you're working with people in families that have a lot more money and power. Like that's a really great opportunity right there.
I want to say, guys, I was in New York and I just got introduced to a person who, like, this is already extremely privileged. Yeah, the guy went to school, let's say, with one of the former president's kids level. He started telling me about the experiences they had in school, and like it was crazy. Like drugs, sex, totally, like it's like early on, like totally just like they by the time they were 15, they've like done everything, and were disappointed in everything, etc. And my heart ached, because you would think that, oh, okay, if you're privileged, oh, hi. But and we all want to get there, yeah, to the point where we can provide for generations, because we have built something incredible. But then still it doesn't solve the problem. And the education, what I heard from him, that it actually requires even more care, love, support, and iterations, because it was just a disaster what I heard what is happening there. Like you would never think. I mean, I would never think that. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Totally. So boom. What other questions would you ask these fine folks?
Yeah, definitely. I love the one that we came up with in episode 2, is that to a lot of people, the people that we are bringing here together, we seem like, the most advanced, progressive people with a lot of influence, and kind of that have figured everything out. But we know as educators that all the challenges that we are facing, and all the doubts, and all the things that we are kind of vulnerable in. So I want us to kind of lead by example and talk a little bit about it. Like, what are the things that you are confused about? What are the things that you wish worked but they don't? And also what we saw in the last conversation, then the power of community immediately kicks in, and we start ideas for each other, right? So That's my
it's the best question I think of the day. Yeah, what are you struggling with? Where do you feel like things aren't happening the way you want right now? Radha's here.
Okay. Hi. You're so lovely.
Yeah.
I believe that having a more stable internet connection is definitely something we need in Brazil. And I'm thinking here everywhere, but especially the countryside and the smaller cities. So this would be number one. And something else is a wiser use. This is totally my perspective of social networks, social media, with purposes such as what Stacy mentioned here, to try to help, to be a force of good, to give, to leave an impact. And this is like hashtags, sharing, and in getting to involve our students in these missions that maybe would have something to do with, for instance, the environment, and sharing their voices or perspectives or questions. And I think it's important. You can create a post and they share and they contribute, and it's there. And it's a proof, interesting, not only their learning path, but it's also being a citizen. We would love to say, okay, I would love to have a school with lots of equipment. Of course, that would be really helpful. But I think a very reliable internet connection is a way to start. There has been an effort in our country. Let's see if it works out, to see if we have better connection available for educational purposes.
So the two things you mentioned, the internet connection, and then what you're saying about developing students with social media and those two completely go together, or do you also feel that it's about teacher training and what do you do with your time on social media? Is that part of it, or is it mainly the connection part of it?
They go hand in hand, I think. It's about this vision and sharing this perspective with your students. And I think we teachers, we need to understand that at this point, it's important to include them in the decision-making process, and trusting them and listening to what they have to say, rather than just, okay, here's what you have to do, and just saying, do this, do that. It's part of it, but things have shifted. And I believe this is a good movement, so they can collaborate and produce and be proud of what they are sharing, and the way they share their voices for a good cause. There are so many things going on in the world, maybe locally, but also as a global community.
Yeah, like in terms of technology, one hope that I have here, we'll see how it works. But the Starlink by SpaceX, but by Elon Musk's company, they are rolling out this system, the coverage of satellites, that actually it works better and even faster in remote areas. Like it would not work because it's the satellite per the number of connections. So like surprisingly, and this is super fast internet, like amazing, but surprisingly this will work even better in remote areas. And then once this is solved, then it's just like up to us to find the ways to kind of fund that, and to make sure that there's at least one modem that I'm sure can share Wi-Fi, and we don't need like crazy fast internet in these places. We just need like basic access so people can connect and like watch a lesson, and so I think this is hopeful.
It is hopeful.
Yeah.
I mean, there are plenty of reasons to be cynical about Starlink, but there's reasons to be hopeful too, I think.
Like with any technology.
You're always
always
have these mixed feelings.
Stacy, moving over to you. Anything that you are struggling with or wish could be different? Or
I think one of the things I'm most concerned with right now is just teacher burnout. and the stressors. Teaching is very much of evolution, and I'm glad that you pointed out, like, if people are watching thinking that I think I'm an expert on any of this, like, I grow, I learn. It's been a complete evolution for me. Things that I talk about now are things that took years and years of teaching for me to get to where I was. It was a slow build of, flipping my classroom was a start, and then thinking about how I could engage more students and how I could build deeper relationships and how I could empower every student's voice. And it's just been a progression, and it takes a lot of time and effort, and teachers need that time, and they need time for professional growth. They need professional growth opportunities to provide a spark, to provide some inspiration, to help them connect. I mean, we're talking in a world where, like, we're already on Twitter, we're already on other channels, like, we've got our people, but, like, how do you even start sometimes? Because I know that the Twitter community has gotten me to places that I never would get to on my own. I mean, through the uplifting, through the inspiration, through seeing what other people do and vibing off of that, this is not all coming from scratch from any of us to get to really next level things. And so, but it requires time. And so, how can we put more time? How can we give people time back? It's really important to grow next level teachers and educators. And
that's beautiful. One thing that I thought of again after our conversation, when Marek, wonderful Marek, was talking about the book he's writing and how he has 3 kids that he needs to take care of. So he ended up getting up at 5 a.m. and, like, having this 3-4 hours that he would go into the woods and literally, like, sit there with a table and write the book. So we are talking about teacher burnout. But then, like, when you get to this like slightly next level, like where you become edupreneur, and you want to, like, write a book, all of a sudden, like, there's so many more things that you need to, like, figure out: design, marketing, everything. Yeah, like, everything. You have to do this thing, but it's not enough. So you have to, and I think so that burnout is so real. Kind of entrepreneurial burnout. And not to mention, again, like, people, influencers on social media, I think, again, we all think, not we all, yeah, but people think, like, you're influencer, like, such a wonderful life you have all this people. But influencer burnout, like content burnout, is such a thing. Like, once you begin, you have to sustain it, and then you have all your life and life happening. Like, so I think this is all to say that the power of community, I feel like, can be a real helper here, where our wonderful Marek has to write his book, and then we together, like, he doesn't have to market it alone anymore. Like, all of us with our, groups that we can, and we see that it's a beautiful product and it's a beautiful person, beautiful educator. So this is worthy of bringing to the world. And of course, we can contribute and bring it to the world.
And support it.
Have to do it alone. And then we know that he will support us. This.
And it's not that teachers haven't been supporting one another. And what you're saying, Stacey, is so true about Twitter. But I also feel like, it can be overwhelming, and there is, like, there are a lot of there is a lot of feeling among teachers that they can't really feel trust and relationships in those spaces all the time. They might get some great curations, and they might be lucky and meet some people, but what if we had just our own thing? Again, like, it doesn't mean that you're not on Twitter, of course, but more that's it's just teachers. It's not teachers sharing a space with everybody else, Sale and Mark Berg or whatever. I think that's key. And I think if somewhere like that, and we organize a group of us, then it would be like the simple thing for us. It's more cooperative kind of spirit, like, we're going to go into this group, and we're going to share this out, or I'm going to use my design skill. I know someone that can help you, and it's just a more systematic thing. I think that would be really fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, and kind of, support. Kind of support is like just like sharing something, yeah, or like saying, "Good job, let's do it." It's really important. But the kind of
It
support that
is.
I'm talking is co-ownership, where
Yeah.
we know that we can like support each other systemically by co-creating and co-owning this and co-sharing then the profits and like what responsibilities and all of these things. I think this can make so much difference, because before that it was just like maybe there's a company and then the company kind of people that you
Yeah,
work with.
it's like with the artists with NFTs, and we're talking about
Exactly.
the first time I heard about NFTs and saw, I didn't know what the hell was going on. But once I finally got a little bit of it processing in my brain, it was like, oh my God, because I'm a musician and a DJ and I rhyme, and for me, teaching, performing, artists, educator, it's always been this blur. So when I saw, because it's about creation more than anything else, that's what an artist is doing, teachers are doing. So it's like when I saw that, I was like, whoa, this is going to have to happen with teachers. When I started to understand the blockchain, I started to see people coming together, this whole thing about DAOs, I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is our chance, to really, all the value, all the great materials people have out there, what we could do to even make them better and all work on them, and have profit from them, both financially and spiritually. It's an exciting prospect, and that's really why we're trying to do this, to make that happen.
Yeah, and the question to you, Stacy, have you guys thought of like Web3 DAO implications and kind of this distributed ownership and blockchain, etc., or this is completely new to you?
Have I put a ton of thought into it? No. I mean, reading about it, interest, yes. I'm not sure. Like, I think it will be interesting to see where everything goes. I don't know yet.
Yeah. And Hagel, how about you?
I think it's not a moment to kind of have answers, but to be open to this path of discovery and adjusting and exchanging ideas and finding out that we have different voices. For instance, if you think social media, Instagram is much more powerful, for instance, here in Brazil as a channel to reach out to people rather than Twitter. It doesn't mean that Twitter is not, but in terms of how it reaches out to people, and things kind of change, maybe completely, maybe slightly, if we consider Facebook groups or this is something that maybe more people are joining a certain group and less another group. And there is also the burnout, and it's important to be aware of the spaces and possibilities to support each other. And I would suggest another channel here to look out. It's LinkedIn, which is more of a professional network, but it's important our students are there, all the professionals, we can showcase what we do, and students can get involved into the discussion there. So I believe there are many doors, and maybe we can visit one and the other, and have our distinct experiences. And like Jason mentioned here, so you have this gift, and then you are also an educator, and you can put things together and reach out and collaborate with your students, with the community, with the world, with your voice. If it's a sport that you do, if this is about writing, and you find a voice and share. And look back, if you think of like 20 years ago, we had nothing like that before. And we have walked a long way, and there's a lot more places to go and people to reach out.
Yeah. So true. I think when a new thing is coming, it's always, there are some people that are like such early adopters, they're like ready to jump on it. And at the same time, there's always people who are like skeptical in the beginning, and they're like, but what, like, how does this work? Like ownership, what, you will just like fight and then there will be a disaster, etc. And I think it's really important to hear these voices as well. It's important for the kind of people who are ready to go and start doing things. And then for the rest of the community, to do it openly, to watch, observe, warn, be skeptical in a good and positive, productive way. Yeah. And then we will see what works and what doesn't. And of course, something will not work, obviously. Yeah.
Failure teaches too.
We need to make mistakes as well to learn and to see what actually works, because a lot of these things, they are new. Like no one actually has done it. So yeah. All the voice, this is to say that all the voices, even of the people, the last thing I want is to be this kind of elite group of innovators that are just in their own thing, kind of cooking something. Yeah, no, let's be completely open. Let's be honest. Let's talk about success and failures, so that people that go after us, they don't have to repeat our mistakes. I think that can be an amazing ride.
Yeah, it's also an honest way to look at that. I think being at a school, we know maybe people think, oh, everything works with them, and it's not true. There are terms of learning, and the internet doesn't work, or there is something in the app.
And that just alienates people more. Right? That just alienates them more, and they feel like, oh, I can't be part of this conversation. Everything I thought was true about this tech is too hard to understand, and we can't ever figure, it's exactly.
And we embrace our colleagues, regardless of their level of tech savviness, if I can say so. It's like empowering the others. You can do that too. Okay, have you got any doubts? What is it about? And we help each other, and the students can help us on this path to learning. And when it becomes collaborative emotionally, we feel like we are in a safer place. And of course, things flow. It's what Stacy mentioned before.
Yeah, totally. We had Jennifer ESL, here saying that, I was a little bit kind of intimidated to come because there are all these VR innovators, and who do I have to talk about? And I'm like, Jennifer, no, you're exactly the person that we need here. We need here educators. We need here people, educators that haven't even
questions to be asked.
Well, and not to mention the fact that compared to most people who teach privately and or small group classes, Jennifer's doing very well because she's put in so much work over the years. She's very well known and everything else. But at the end of the day, she and me and a lot of us, we're still busting our butt in the grind as teachers. A Jennifer avatar in a virtual world, with all that she's done, she deserves to, make more money and save time, not always be in front of the camera all the time on the grind, And that's what this is about, and a lot of what it's about. I feel like what we're talking about. And just one more thing, I know Stacy needs to go. I need to go too soon. We're gonna close things, stop things down in a minute. But one other theme that has been recurring, just threading through today, has been let's listen to the students, bring the students in. Now, teachers always say that, right? Whether you're a good teacher or a bad teacher, you feel like you've got to say, oh, it's about students, finding their voice, including them, student-centered, blah, blah, blah. Not everybody walks the walk. But there's another dynamic I feel that we're talking about today with bringing in the students, and that is that they're already in a lot of these spaces already. When you look at suddenly the movie industry is interested in Roblox and Fortnite. Suddenly the music industry is interested in these spaces for kids. So it's it's not just let's listen to the students. It's as educators, we have to really, because the companies are coming. The people that don't care about education are coming for those spaces. So we're working with those kids in those spaces. So to me, it's another dynamic with including kids in the conversation.
Yeah. What a beautiful team. I won't say family to finish. First day of the EduVerse, let's say. The EduVerse is born today, and it's up to us. We want to take it. It's absolutely is for us. So
no doubt. Thank you so much for your time, guys. Really wonderful.
Welcome.
So great.
It was great being here.
Yeah, and we'll have summaries. Oh yeah, so cool. And it was a little disparate parts to things today, but wow, when we get it together and have summaries, have some recordings, and I think boom, you're saying also about like text, right? That was coming in, so we can have. So yeah, it's exciting to think what we could do with this to keep us inspired, and bring more people in the conversation, and keep it moving, keep the EduVerse movement.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Yeah. Have a great weekend. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.